Hey, welcome into the Snap. This is your spot for the off-season rookie content, joined as always by my co-host Lando. Today we're going to be talking about Travis Etienne, senior running back out of Clemson, one of the most decorated college runners of all time. Lando, are you excited for this prospect?
Travis Etienne is great, but in a lot of rankings, you'll see that he's not number one, and we're going to try to dive into why he's not number one. We'll get into his accolades, college stats, some metrics, some advanced metrics. We'll look over his film room and see what we see on the field, and then give you the verdict on where we have him ranked and what our best NFL comparison is in the NFL or used to play in the NFL.
And that NFL comp is really, really interesting and tough, in my opinion. But I think that we've got it narrowed to some pretty good candidates and someone that you probably haven't seen on Twitter or other YouTube channels. So if you guys are new to the channel, please consider liking and subscribing. It really helps us out and keeps this off-season rookie train chugging along. So thanks for helping us keep the lights on. What do you need to know about Travis Etienne? He's a 5'10", 205-pound running back. He is 22 years old and played alongside Trevor Lawrence, one of the best quarterback prospects for his entire career at Clemson. This guy's decorated. He is the ACC's all-time leading rusher with 4,952 yards, ahead of Dalvin Cook. Now, that is high praise. He is a two-time All-American, a two-time ACC Player of the Year, and a three-time first-team All-ACC player. His resume speaks for itself. He is decorated. He is very talented. And when you look at his college production, it is supported there as well. And Lando, I'll kick it over to you. You are the stats guy. Break down some of the goodies that pertain to Travis Etienne.
Right away, that jumps out. In his freshman season, he led the team in rushing attempts. Now, he did okay with it, but he still averaged 7.2 yards per carry. So he broke out at an early age. We liked what we saw, but his receptions and targets were down. But what really jumps out, sophomore and junior season, he had over 1,600 yards on the ground and a ton of touchdowns. When he was a sophomore, we were talking about him like he's the next big thing. He's the next big elite prospect. But he came back for his senior season. We're not sure why. We wanted Travis Etienne to be involved with this great 2020 class with Swift and Dobbins and Akers and Taylor. But he came back, and his senior season, he disappointed. But that's just relative to our expectations. He didn't go over 1,000 yards on the ground, but he did get 588 yards through the air. So he really improved his pass catching ability. His yards per carry decreased. His broken tackles decreased. But we'll talk about his advanced metrics later. But now he's not the consensus number one. Like he might have been if he would have had that 1,600 yards on the ground.
Well, and what I want to talk to you about real quick, Landon, is while we have the college stats up on the screen, the 60 targets is a 12% target share of the total offense's attempts. Travis Etienne has been noted for even himself saying that pass catching is not his strong point, and he at times was even afraid to catch the football coming into the 2019 season. This is something that this guy has worked on, and so the big question mark surrounding Travis Etienne's game was, what can you provide us as a shiftier, maybe not even shifty, a bursty athlete, an explosive athlete? What can you offer us in the passing game? Because at the next level, that's going to be a skill set that is relied upon for him to stay on the field for third downs. And Travis Etienne answered those questions. He answered the bell. He improved the pass catching, 48 receptions, 588 yards. 12% target share. That is, I think that was worth coming back in his senior season to show that he is a capable pass catcher.
Yeah, and I think that hopefully silences some of the critics. But I think it did hurt his draft capital a little bit coming back in his senior. Well, it's hard to say. Maybe he'll be drafted pretty high, but my perception on him after his senior season kind of decreases a little bit.
Yeah, and I think if he had came out in 2019, yes, his draft stock would have been very high after that true breakout season in his junior year, right? 2,000 scrimmage yards, 23 total touchdowns. He was in the conversation for high capital, but might have get lost in the mix with an elite running back class: Jonathan Taylor, J.K. Dobbins, Cam Akers, Antonio Gibson, DeAndre Swift. The list is pretty substantial there after year one in the league, and Clyde Edwards-Helaire is now at the back, in my opinion, of those players. So where would Travis Etienne fall there? I don't know, but probably going back, playing with Trevor, trying to win a national championship, and then being the running back 2 with the NFL draft potential to be a first-round pick, maybe an early second. I think it was a good business decision for him. Could yield him a lot of money in the long term.
Getting into his advanced metrics, so his yards after contact is great, and he shows that with his broken tackles. In his sophomore season, he had 52 broken tackles. In his junior season, he had 91 broken tackles, which is phenomenal. In his junior season, he averaged 5.7 yards after contact. So his contact balance is great. You can't shoulder tackle this guy. You need to wrap him up because he's going to get away from it. He's easily the best in the class at contact balance, and that's what I really like to see, and that's why he should be in the same conversation as Najee Harris.
You should be, and I think that landing spot is going to be huge for Travis Etienne. I think this is a player that might not be able to create for himself like Najee Harris would be at 6'2", 230 with a pretty good skill set for catching the football. But Travis Etienne, given the space, is going to be very dangerous. Like, you get this guy in space, he's explosive. His straight line speed is unbelievable. And contact balance, like you mentioned, is like when you think about guys in the league, like a lot of people are comping him to Alvin Kamara. He has some of those same characteristics, some of those skill sets. It's not, holistically Alvin Kamara, but it's close. So yeah, burst acceleration is elite. Yards after contact is one of the best in the country. For me, some areas he's not so good at, like sometimes his vision is a little bit flawed, is a little bit blurry. I find that sometimes he runs into the back of his lineman and can't see the clear and obvious hole or direction to take the football. I think in terms of like his jump cut or his ability to make defenders miss, like this isn't a guy that's going to elude you in a phone booth. He's not overly shifty. Winning one-on-one might be tough for him, but given the speed he can create in a little bit of space, he might be able to absorb contact and beat you, but he's not going to dance around you. So that's one thing, and then scared to catch the football is another. But I think at the next level, this guy has what it takes to be a fantastic running back. And people will bring up his, and I'll flip it to you here, Landon, people will bring up his poor technique in pass protection and pass blocking. Like, what do you make of that?
I'm not too concerned with his poor pass blocking because he puts in the effort, and that's what you want at the next level. The actual technique can be coached up. That could be helped at the next level. And if he wants to stay on in all three downs, he's going to have to be a good pass blocker. But I do think that he checks the box off for me for putting his nose in. He's never afraid to really get contact, and really he will search out contact, even whether he's pass blocking or in the open field. He'll put his shoulder down and probably bounce off the defender, and that's all I really want for this prospect.
Yeah, it is absolutely the willingness to be able to try to put your body on the line. It's when you see guys take plays off and they don't pick up a blitz, or they're not willing to fight to protect their quarterback, that that's where red flags are brought up. But Travis Etienne has been shown to sacrifice, even with poor technique, himself for the better of his quarterback. And that is a skill that I think, it's like a backhanded compliment. You're not great at what you do, but you're willing to do it. So that's kind of what I see. But I do agree with you, at the next level, that can be coached up. So a lot of pros for Travis Etienne, a couple cons. But I think he's going to be great. But when it comes to who does he compare? Who's his game compare to? That's where the difficulty lies with this player, because he's very unique. And you'll see when you browse through Twitter or other YouTube videos that people are going to comp him to Alvin Kamara, or I've seen Chris Johnson or Jamal Charles. And well, I think that the speed is certainly something that we can attribute. And the contact balance, I don't think that those are good comps. I think they're somewhat lazy. He's a blend of players. But if you had to dial it down to one player, Landon, who would be your best comparable player?
I'm going to compare Travis Etienne to Austin Ekeler. But the problem is that Travis Etienne is a better prospect than Austin Ekeler. Ekeler was undrafted, and Travis Etienne is projected to go in the first 2 rounds. So that's important because Travis Etienne is going to get the opportunity for several years down the road to get attempts, get the balls, get touches as much as he can, because he's going to get the draft capital on him. Where Austin Ekeler, although he's extremely fast, very bursty, similar to Travis Etienne, he had to work his way to get those touches ahead of Melvin Gordon. So that's something that Travis Etienne is going to have an easier road to get through. But again, it needs to be his catching ability. What I saw on film from Travis Etienne is that he did work on his catching out of the backfield, but he still caught it with his body a little bit and isn't as good of a pass catcher as Austin Ekeler and the Camaras of the world, but it's sufficient. So that's why it's tough to really compare Travis Etienne 1-for-1 for Ekeler, because Ekeler catches the ball a little better.
Right. And again, I'm not saying that this player that I'm going to say is, through and through Travis Etienne, but I think that his game best reflects Reggie Bush's game.
Wow.
And when you look at their college stats, their true breakout years, both junior breakouts, their production is eerily similar. Their size and stature is pretty much the same. And in terms of their play style, Reggie Bush may be a touch more elusive, but they were both straight line speed, get out into space and burn you, good contact absorption players. And I think that Reggie Bush is a good player comp. Reggie Bush was a 4.42 speed guy. Travis Etienne is probably going to be a high 4.3, low 4.4 guy. Similar speed, similar acceleration. Reggie Bush, 5'11", 203. Travis Etienne, 5'10", 205. Again, very similar. Reggie Bush's junior breakout year, 200 attempts, 1,740 yards, 16 touchdowns, 37 for 478 and 2 through the air, 2,200 total scrimmage yards on 237 attempts, 18 touchdowns. Travis Etienne in his breakout year, 207 for 1,614 yards, 19 touchdowns, 37 receptions, exact same, 432 and 4 through the air, total 2,046 on 244 and 23 touchdowns. I mean, those numbers are eerily similar. I think Travis Etienne reminds me a lot of Reggie Bush. He's not going to be the second person taken in the draft like Reggie Bush was in 2006. He doesn't warrant that draft capital, but he's a potential first rounder. I think Reggie Bush is a pretty decent comparison. I do like your Austin Ekeler take as well.
All right, guys, you waited for the verdict and how we have them ranked and why we have them ranked so high, maybe. I have Travis Etienne ranked as my number 2 prospect, and it's a lot to do with what we talked about today. His acceleration and burst is unmatched in this class. He is a big play guy, and for fantasy football, he can take anything to the house. He had so many big plays in college. He led the country in big plays in his sophomore year and junior year. So this guy can take anything to the house, and I think he's going to be very valuable in fantasy football. He's on the same tier to me as a Najee Harris. It's very close. It's closer than I thought it would be.
Ooh. And he's also, I echo Landon sentiment, he's also my number 2 running back in this class. I do think that there is a substantial difference between the next tier of Javonte Williams and Kenneth Gainwell. And when you look into this running back class, it's not as deep as last year's. But Travis Etienne to the right landing spot does warrant maybe the number one pick over Najee Harris. It's a little bit riskier in my opinion. I think Najee Harris is a safer pick, but Etienne certainly has the physical characteristic to have a massive ceiling for fantasy football. So we'll have to see where he lands. But if you guys liked this video, at any point you found it informational, you found it enjoyable, you like the bounce back between me and Lando, make sure you hit that like button and you subscribe to the channel so that you can get this content all off season long. We got mock drafts coming up. We're going to have a reaction to the NFL draft. So make sure that you guys stay tuned with the snap, and we'll see you in the next video.